Welcome to my new channel Meetup Psych. Today we are going over how emotions can help you to have a better date. And these ideas are based upon two principles which are called misattribution of arousal as well as excitation transference. And in the next few minutes I will explain to you how emotions emerge and how you can use those principles to really get more out of your date. So let's get started and stay here till the end. So let's look at how emotions emerge. First of all, you become presented with a stimulus. That can be anything from a spider to some other person, and this leads to some kind of arousal, to autonomic nervous system arousal. But from this point on, based on this arousal, you don't feel any emotion yet. After you feel this arousal, you try to label the source, you try to find out the source, the stimulus that is responsible for this arousal. And usually we are pretty good at identifying these sources. So in this case, it's a spider, and we know that this arousal happened because we should feel fear, and then subsequently we feel fear. So as you see, the emotion we feel is really dependent upon what stimulus we perceive, what we think is responsible for our autonomic arousal. So let's imagine the stimulus is not that obvious, and therefore we feel this autonomous arousal, but we don't know what emotion to feel. Now what we do then is we look in our immediate environment and try to find a source which we can attribute this autonomic arousal to, so that we can feel the right emotion. And if we look into our immediate environment and we come up with a source which might account for our autonomic arousal but isn't really the source of our arousal, then we wrongly misattribute arousal, and this phenomenon is called misattribution of arousal. And to further explain it, I want to show you how researchers in science came up with this principle, how they found out about it. And they did so by inducing participants with either a placebo drug or with adrenaline. And participants were either informed about the effects of a drug, or they were uninformed about it. And they also differed in a euphoric condition and an angry condition. In the euphoric condition, they were able to play with little paper airplanes. In the angry condition, they had to answer questions which, for example, implied that their moms have cheated on the dads in the past. Now, in the euphoric condition, in which participants played with airplanes, both the adrenaline group as well as the placebo group felt equally happy, because they both attributed their arousal, their autonomic nervous system arousal, to the situation, to playing with airplanes. But the interesting thing is, in the angry condition, in which they had to answer mean questions which implied that their mothers had cheated on the dads, in this condition the informed participants differed from the uninformed participants, in that the informed participants reported less anger, and that is because they could attribute the autonomic nervous system arousal to the drug. They knew they had taken the drug, and that causes them to be aroused, therefore feeling more positive emotion and feeling less anger. Whereas the uninformed participants, who didn't know what was going on, thought that their autonomic arousal was partly or largely due to the questionnaire, and therefore they felt a great deal of anger. So this really nicely illustrates how a misattribution of arousal can lead to totally different emotions felt. So this is really nice and it's interesting to know, but let's get into how this can really help you to have a better date and to use emotions to become more valuable in the eyes of your date. So let's imagine for a moment you're going into the movies and you watch a film, hopefully an action film, because that especially leads to high arousal. So she will feel arousal, she will label the source of the arousal as the movie, of course, and she will feel excitement. Now, what we want is that she misattributes this arousal and misattributes it to you. So she associates this arousal with you being in the room or you being next to her. And this is where excitation transference comes into play, because long after the movie is done, she will feel leftover arousal, and she won't know how and where she should attribute this arousal to. So she will look into her environment and try to find the source of her arousal, of her leftover arousal, and she will find you and probably most likely attribute this leftover arousal to you, because you have been around for the whole evening and you kind of seem interesting to her. So to repeat my point and put more emphasis on it, when you do an activity with your date that leads to strong arousal, when this activity is done and you're in the next situation, she will, and you will, of course, as well, feel leftover arousal, and hopefully she will attribute it to you, to the person who's in your immediate environment. And this is a quite common phenomenon. For example, in movies, when you see a pair of two people, for example, running away from a policeman or doing something dangerous, and after the situation has already ended, they will still feel really strong arousal, and they will attribute this arousal to each other, and therefore in movies often in this situation a big kiss happens or something very extraordinary happens. Now, the underlying assumption of this model implies that you do an activity that causes strong autonomic arousal, and that can be anything from watching a movie, a really exciting one, an action movie, for example, or doing sports is also a great way to enhance this autonomic arousal, as well as bungee jumping or singing or dancing. Anything like that. You can be really creative with how you want to increase the arousal. Thank you for watching the movie, and if you liked it, please like the video and subscribe to this channel. You can expect more videos coming out every week. And also please comment and tell me what you think about the idea and if it helped you with your date. So that's it from me. See you next time.